we're approaching the second anniversary of COVID-19. I want to say that the most important lesson I took away from COVID-19 is just what is important in life and what is not. And here in the United States, a lot of people's lives revolve around two addictions. I mean, they could be pleasurable things, but I think a lot of Americans take them to addiction kind of level. When we first locked down, I was heartbroken about two things. Number one, I was dating a girl who was still living with her grandparents, and I couldn't see her, obviously, because her grandparents were high risk. And then I went to my favorite grocery store to look for my favorite foods to take my mind off of that, and a lot of my favorite foods were not available either. Now I get back home and I thought this is a good opportunity for me to learn something new. I started writing an AI for the game of backgammon. I named the game Corona Gammon because you gotta remember, I thought this thing was only gonna go on for 2-3 weeks. I was lucky if I had any time to write a good game. And later that day I recorded a ton of YouTube videos you can probably go back and watch, talking about how I was feeling about the situation. I watched a number of YouTube videos. I learned a lot about previous pandemics, obviously. I watched a lot of subjects that I normally would not think about. Now at the turn of the year, going into 2021, I wanted to get over my fear of loud environments because I had gotten a reprieve for it for a year, and I used to have a lot of difficult times going into loud, crowded environments. I'm an adjunct professor. I used to hardly ever attend people's graduations. If I did, I often had to pull myself out early. So I decided to think about what kind of loud environments I could tolerate, and for some reason I chose to take up bowling. And my first time bowling, I was scoring 70, 80 points. Nowadays, I'm scoring 160. I also started, because I wanted to get over social anxiety. At the beginning of the pandemic, when you could only order takeout at the restaurant, I would go into the restaurant and order takeout. And I discovered a favorite restaurant. I made some friends there. So what do I want to point out? I want to point out that life doesn't revolve around binge eating yourself to death, right? More people in America, actually around the world, more people are eating themselves to death than starving. Life doesn't revolve around that. Life doesn't revolve around a relationship with a partner, right? That can be part of life, but that shouldn't be the center of life, is what I want to say. Go out there, discover a new sport, discover new hobbies, learn new things, and realize that there's a whole world outside of those two things. I would say those two things are a very small sliver of my overall life nowadays. They used to be a big part, especially the binge eating, right? And I'm so glad that at the beginning of the pandemic, I didn't miss those two things for very long. Probably no more than a week, if I remember correctly, now looking back at it.